Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing today, Reverend Cayson? Can you hear me? I'm going to try to move this off here, this band, this overlay. Ah, there you go. There you go. Can you hear me now? Pastor, can you hear me? Did I add you? I
Yes, I can
don't.
hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Hello, 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 everyone. I am want to welcome you to Real
Hello.
Anointed Needed Talk, also known as Rant for Life. And our podcast on today is Be Real, Stop Lying. It ain't easy. And what we're talking about is this series on mental health. We're ministering to those with mental illness and how to help those that are suffering. And we're featuring through this series of sessions, there are 4 sessions, and a qualified and distinguished guest. And we're live on YouTube and also on Real Anointed Needed Talk Facebook page. And we will be later on today, we'll be on the podcast StreamYard and iHeart Radio and Google, and also on YouTube channel REVELLIS 50. But let me tell you about this podcast, those that are listening that might just be turning in right now. This is a 4 session podcast that will help us discern how to help those who are suffering from mental illness. And it will examine 4 topics dealing with Christians who are suffering emotionally and how to discern if something is mental illness or may be affected by other causes, or and also how should the church respond to persons with mental illness and how to provide hope for individuals who are depressed. But the session that we're on today, session 1, our guest is Reverend Delmetria Cayson-Combs. And I want to tell you a little bit about her. Okay. Pastor Cayson-Combs is the first of 2 children born to Tracy Dale Cayson. She gave me that full name. I don't know how Tracy gonna like that, right? But she's growing up in Lexington, Kentucky, and she was surrounded by a loving family who taught her life-sustaining values such as respect, caring for each other, and being responsible, but more importantly, to love the Lord. Pastor Cayson-Combs' family not only taught her values and social skills and spiritual values, they instilled educational values as well, because she had received her early education there at the Fayette County Public School System in Lexington, Kentucky. And she continued her education by attending Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. She has earned an AA degree from Western Kentucky University, a BA in Human Services, and an MED in Counseling and Human Development, both from Lindsey Wilson College. She has her Master of Divinity degree with a certificate in Black Church Studies from the Louisville Seminary in 2014. And Pastor Combs is a licensed professional clinical counselor and supervisor of counseling interns and counseling associates in Kentucky. She enjoys her work as a batterer intervention program provider and working with the adolescent population. I told you we was gonna have some qualified people here. 5 years after accepting her call to ministry, however, Pastor Cayson-Combs was ordained as an elder in the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, CME Church. She has served as church and Kentucky communities in many capacities, which includes 20 plus years of pastoral leadership, Episcopal district administrative duties, and Director of Pastoral Care and Counseling for the 2nd Episcopal District. At age 34, you gave us your age, she was appointed to serve the Evansville, Hopkinsville District of the Kentucky region as the presiding elder, one of the youngest in the Connectional Church. Very much qualified, you see. I'm knowing she's going to have some very interesting things to tell us and inspire us and educate us on today. Well, in July 2016, Pastor Cayson-Combs was appointed to serve as pastor of our home church, the Phillips Memorial CME Church in Lexington, Kentucky, for those that are listening elsewhere. When she is not actively participating in planned self-care activities, She enjoyed meeting others and sharing the gift of preaching, counseling, and motivational presentation, which is why she is here today. She serves as the mental health coordinator and domestic violence coordinator for Kentucky State Association of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Finally, Pastor Cayson-Combs is the proud mother of Ryan. We must mention Ryan Cayson-Combs, whom she refers to as a gift wrapped blessing from God. Yes, yes, yes. We are so happy to have you here with us today. And I also want to let you know that we do have some questions. Some questions did come through the email as we requested, and we're not probably not going to be able to get through all of them. There was like 14 questions that I want to decipher through. But right now, I want to just share with the audience uh, the theme of what we're talking about. You know, we're talking about the emotional health of Christians and their emotional suffering, and it is a belief in many churches that Christians don't have emotional or mental health problems. That's the misnomer that's been going around for ages. Or that such problems, that they just don't exist. Because this belief is usually informal and rarely discussed, it often goes without revealing the light of Scripture. This session that we're on will shed biblical light on this belief and help Christians examine their own perspective on mental and emotional health. Did I do a good intro for you? All right, then. Well, I just wanted to set the platform, and I'm just going to turn it over to you. You are the professional. You're qualified to lead us into this session on mental health and Christians and doing their emotional suffering. And I want to say, though, that I did peep in on your Bible study the other day when you was talking. Yes, I did. I peeped in on you. And I wanted to just type in because you hit so many points. So I hope you share some of those with us. It was very good. You answered some of the questions because people really sometimes just don't believe that, something as small as what you talked about, shame, can hinder a person, to that degree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So,
I'm going to turn it over to you and you just lead us in to where if you want to start.
all right, all right. So, good evening, Pastor. It's so good to see you. I am elated, excited to hang out with you tonight. This is like the stuff, okay?
Yes.
Um, Now, I don't know how your viewers will perceive me after tonight. But I do make up words, and I might say some words that you
Me
wouldn't
too.
think that I'm supposed to say.
Yeah.
Um, but that's
Right.
my disclaimer. I'm just letting you know the Lord
Right.
is still working with moi. Okay.
Yes.
Um, so with everything that you've introduced as about me, I have this innate sense of helping others. Like it's my life is my call.
Yes.
So I don't have like a pastoral life and a mama life and a counselor life. It's all my life,
Yes.
and my life is directed at helping people, whether it's my son, whether it's my cousins, whether it's my clients, whether it's the people at the church
Mhm.
or in the neighborhood, the community, regardless of who it is. That's my call, and
Yeah.
I'm glad about that. Some people don't get to operate in their call that way,
Mhm.
but I do, and I'm grateful. Just a few months ago, I was really wrestling with what um, my lack of speaking about mental health issues.
Mhm.
I would mention it in sermons on Sunday mornings, but I really wasn't dealing with it in Bible studies and that kind of thing. And the Lord and I had a conversation. about what I needed to be doing for the body of Christ. And so for the last few months, that's really all we've been talking about. How to make peace with your past. Like so many Christians, it doesn't matter what shade of skin they have or how much or how little melanin they possess. Christians all over the world struggle with different types of issues. Now, I have to start out by talking about this word that has become ever so prevalent in our vocabularies, and that word is trauma. Now, when we talk about trauma, there's levels of trauma. Okay. There's what we call big T's and little T traumas. Now, how I define big T's and little T trauma, so trauma would be anything that shakes your world. That's how I define it and how I make it make sense. Anything that shakes your world. So a little T trauma is still a trauma. It shakes your world, but it's not life or death. Okay. So you really wanted some chicken wings from B-Dubs and you had your mouth set on it, and Friday hits, and you're like, Friday, I'm going to Buffalo Wild Wings and I'm going to get me some wings. And you get there and they are all out of traditional wings. Little T trauma. Shook your world, shook your weekend, because now you got to figure out what you're going to eat, where you're going to go. It's like everything's all like messed up. You got an attitude and all that, right? Well, that's not life or death. That's not going to kill you if you do not get them wings on Friday. A big T trauma would be a tornado that comes in and wrecks your home, and you're displaced now, and now you got to find another place to live, and it's just you and your cats, or you and your dog, or you and your boo, whatever it is. But now everything else is gone. All your pictures, all your stuff is all gone. Big T trauma. Another big T trauma, rape, any type of sexual abuse, big T trauma, right? Shakes your world, can definitely be life or death. Being robbed, watching someone become unalive, right? Those are, whether it's by nature, right, by the end of time, or end of their time, or by a gunshot, knife, fight, whatever. Big T trauma. The football players on the field that were on the field could have very well also, for Hamlin, that was a big T trauma.
Big T,
Okay. For the football player that it happened to, that was a big T trauma. For the people on the field, it was probably a big T trauma. Okay. Because they probably eat with this guy and hang out with this guy and practice, they practicing and they do all this stuff. And they see him and they talk to him. So it could have been a big T trauma. For some of us in the stands, while it wasn't our life and death, but we watched it, but it shook our world, it may have been a little T trauma. All right. But either way, we all at some point have experienced some sort of trauma.
I agree.
Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to probably make some people mad.
That's all right. I do it all the time. So go ahead and feel free.
In the world of Methodism, all right? In the world of Methodism and or other churches, other church structures where pastors are moved or replaced abruptly or whatever, those can be considered big T traumas. Shaking people's world where they feel like the rug has been snatched under them. Now, it may not really have been a life or death situation, but to them and in their core, it could probably feel like a life or death situation.
I like the way you said that.
Those kind of
them.
Those kind of things are grief, right? So grief is definitely can be definitely a big T trauma. Right. So when we lose people, pets, the best friend moves away, goes live her life in France or wherever she goes,
Mhm.
but she's not with you in Lexington anymore.
Right.
You know, that could be considered big T trauma. So you're dealing with the grief of losing a friend, dealing with the grief of going to a new school for our little people. When we move them from school to school, we
Mhm.
think that they should just get over it and
Yeah.
adjust. Well, it's a little T trauma to them. It shakes their world. It's not life or death, but it definitely moves them, right?
Mhm. Right.
So when we think about trauma in those ways, right, we
Mhm.
can look at it and say, well, DAME, I have experienced trauma.
Yeah. That's right.
I have been a victim
Mhm.
of whatever type of trauma. Now,
Yes.
with traumas that happen within our families, and this is something that has happened a lot in African American families that we refuse to talk about, and that is sexual abuse in the family,
Right.
right? Whether we're sexually abused, whether you're a boy and you were sexually abused by a friend, a family friend, an uncle, or whoever, whether you are a girl and you were sexually abused by your mama's boyfriends or granddaddy, or, you know, it happened a lot. And guess what? It is still happening.
Yes, it is.
Domestic violence in
Mhm.
our homes is happening. It was happening, and it's happening a lot. If you recall, the Clark sisters, that show that came out on Lifetime what year or so ago,
Mhm.
and it
Yes.
showed
Remember.
about Mama Clark and
Mhm.
how Mama was involved with in that domestic that
Yes.
interpersonal violence with her
Mhm.
husband, who was a preacher,
Yes.
right? So we experience all of these things in the church. We experience these things in our homes.
Yeah.
We experience these things in our communities. And if we keep experiencing them, but never learn how to deal with
How to deal with
them, we are constantly putting ourselves in a coffin,
them. Mhm.
casket, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
burial box,
I agree.
urn, however
Yeah.
you want to slice it. But that's something that we really do have to address. It's like start talking about. So I commend you, Pastor Ellis,
Well, the Lord put it on my
for
heart.
leading these
Yeah.
conversations.
The Lord put it on my
Be
heart.
real, stop lying. It ain't
Yeah.
easy. That's right.
Yeah.
And
It
this thing,
is.
this concept of, well, just go pray about it. You
Yeah.
know,
No.
okay, well, let's pray about it. Let's pray about it. And then
Then
what?
what? Yeah.
You say, well, just you wait on the Lord to move. Okay. Well, while you waiting on the Lord to move, you can be doing some things as well. So God puts us all in place. Now, I can't say that what I do is my calling
Mhm.
from God if I don't believe that God has a work in it.
Right.
Right. So I do believe that God has to do what God got to do with the people I work with and the people that I work for as their clinician. So I just want to make sure that I'm able to help whoever I can help. And I would like to talk about shame a little bit, but I know that you said you had a few questions. So I'd
Oh,
like to hear a
we're
couple of
here
the
until
questions that may.
we have an hour. This is an hour podcast. So, but
Okay, but you know, I can go. I
I
can
know,
talk.
I know. I'm really expecting you to. You know, I was very excited when the Lord put you on my heart because if you know me, you know I don't move without God telling me to move. You know, and I also often question Him and say, "Are you sure? You know, are you sure that's what you
Yeah,
want me to
yeah,
do?"
yeah,
And so I knew that
yeah,
you would
yeah.
be the one to lead the podcast off because I knew you would be honest and that you would be right in your
Oh, wow.
face because I'm a right in your face type person too. You know, that's why people don't talk to me too much. But
Yeah.
you know, but I knew that you would be authentic, you know, and this is what the world is needing now, authenticity, you know, realness, you know, real
Well,
people, you know, talking real things
yeah,
and touching real subjects that
yeah,
are not being touched. But we do
yeah.
have a few questions. I wanted to ask you there's we have questions that's even talking about mental illness as a flaw in character or is it chemistry?
Character or chemistry?
Yeah.
Ooh,
I don't even know if that's the
good
best
one.
way to frame it, but what do we lose when we fall into a trap of either? Is it what do we lose either way, whether it's chemistry or whether it's uh just something that we've fallen habits that has
All right.
formed
So
against ourselves.
this is how I like to address the why come we
Hmm.
are like we are.
Yeah.
There's a story about a man in the Bible. And the man's name, I think his name is Jesus. I think his name is Jesus. And he has an encounter with this other man. And this man had like some kind of demon possession,
Yeah.
or he was sick, something. He had something going on with him. And everybody wanted to know how this man ended up the way he was,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
They want to know why he like this. Is it because his mom and them did something?
Yeah.
Is it because he did something? Why he like this? And Jesus said, what difference that make? The only
Right.
thing that matters is that God gets the glory from what's about to happen here.
Correct.
So when I start talking to people, yes, as a clinician and a client, yes, I go back and we talk about the why comes.
Hmm.
But as it relates to the real, is it because of this or because of this? Those things really don't matter. What really matters is that we're right here and that we're trying to do what we need to do to move to the other side of it, right?
Right.
So the first thing is first, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you're trying to address whether or not it's chemical or whether or not it's character as the first step, no. That doesn't matter, right?
Hmm.
So what matters is that I got a problem.
Yes.
Okay. So once we determine that we have a problem, okay, let's say I got high blood pressure. I went to the
Hmm.
doctor 3 times, and the doctor has told me, Delmetria, your blood pressure remains elevated. Every time you come in here, I want you to start tracking your blood pressure at home.
Hmm.
Right. So I'm tracking my blood pressure at home. It stays elevated. And I send my physician all these elevation scores. And she goes in, she said, you know what? You have high blood pressure.
Hmm.
Now, let's talk about, the problem. You have high blood pressure. Now,
Hmm.
let's talk about how we got there.
Okay.
Okay. But the first thing is identifying that the problem exists and then going to see how we got there so that we can make necessary steps
Hmm.
to correct it
Right.
or to cope with it. Right.
Right.
So it doesn't matter which way we got here. We
Right.
got here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the steps might be a little different when we
Hmm.
start to look at the why come. So if it's a chemical imbalance of some kind, and that's why you have depression, symptoms of depression that seem to be a whole lot more severe than what your daddy had,
Hmm.
or whatever. If you have those kinds of symptoms, then it very well could be a chemistry type of imbalance. And if it's a
Okay.
chemistry imbalance, we typically use chemistry
Right.
to deal with chemistry, right?
Right.
And if we're dealing with character, if we're dealing with
The cat.
narcissism
Hmm.
or borderline personality or some type of personality disorder, then we're going to look at it from a character perspective.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, that's the girl Alexa telling them that their food is ready.
That's
Uh,
okay. That's okay.
I got 8 and 6 over here. They got to cook themselves.
Okay. That's
It's
fine. I
fine.
was praying
I'm
before.
not working tonight.
Don't even
Um,
hear about it. You're
but
fine.
that's a really good question about character chemistry. You
Hmm.
don't lose anything. What you have to do though is admit that you have the issue, what you have the problem, and then
Right.
we can look and see where did it come from, so we can address it properly. Now, when it comes to Jesus, Jesus said it don't matter where it comes from. What you need
Hmm.
to understand is we can heal from it.
Right.
It can be
Right.
restored
I agree.
just because you said I want to be restored, right?
Yeah.
So the big deal is not how it happened. The big deal is that here we are.
Well, do you feel that we spend too much time as church, spend too much time trying to figure out why the whys, that we
Yep.
never get to the solving of the
Yep.
part?
We in the church well, that's because we nosy.
Yeah.
that's like, okay, why does a person ask why? What's the purpose of the question why?
Yeah.
Right?
It does.
And
at that point, it's not solving anything. Yeah.
no, not really. Not really. You know, you don't ask why until you get to the bottom, to the source, right? If someone is, and this is my my plug for Law and Order SVU.
Okay.
I love Law and Order. I watch all my crime shows because I'm a detective.
All
Okay,
right.
I am a detective who didn't get the call. Okay, I just didn't get it, but I am a detective. Okay.
Okay.
So when they are solving crimes and they're interviewing suspects, they ask all the other questions first. The where were you? The how did you get there? The how long were you there? The all that. Not why did you go there?
Right.
The why did you go there is the last question.
It's the last question. Yeah.
It's the last question that they ask. Yeah.
Great. Well, do you have a I like you say, want to get to some of these. Well, one of here is, it asked the question. It says, "Can we have a weak brain?" That, in other words, when I read that, I was like, a weak brain. But I'm thinking what they're saying is, are some people predisposed by their emotions and difficulty in discerning reality, you know, and conflicted with their deep, genuine love for God? Can that?
All right. So I am a behavioralist. Okay. So I believe I'm a cognitive behavioralist, to be exact. So I believe that there is a direct correlation between how we think and how we feel and how we behave. Okay. And I think that everything starts up here, and then how it happens up here affects how we feel in here, and how we feel in here affects what we say out of here, what we do with these, and where we go with our feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So
I agree with that.
If we look at life that way, right? It happens up here. Now, we have all been parented by someone or some people.
Okay.
If our parents, okay, because I'm gonna use the term parent, I'm not gonna say caregiver. I'm gonna say parent, because we have all been parented by somebody at some point. Now, y'all ready?
Go ahead.
They ain't always been good parents.
Right.
They have not always been effective parents, but we were parented at some point. Okay?
Right.
I don't like saying raised, because you raise chickens. You don't raise.
You don't raise, right. That's
anyway,
a whole school term.
yeah. I was raised over there in the well, I was not raised. I'm no chicken. I'm no cluck cluck.
Yeah.
So well, with that thought that everything starts up here, when a young person experiences trauma, okay, if a young person, I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. I have my nephew lives with us right now, and if they experience some sort of big T or little T trauma, okay, where do they learn how to handle any type of trauma?
Right.
Where they learn how to do it.
They learn it from the parents, from the uncles, aunts, the people that they're
They
involved.
learn from whoever is parenting or
Yeah.
whoever is around,
Around.
right?
Yeah.
They learn from their environment. You know,
That's
there's
right.
that question, is it nature or nurture? It's a great debate. It is a
Yeah.
great debate because I believe that it's a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
right?
Me too.
The nature part, God created us and God
Mhm.
gives us all these abilities to look like you got your mama's eyes, but you got your
Yeah.
daddy's nose. And how
Yeah.
does that even work? That is not, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But if even though that's the case,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm teaching them how to respond to traumatic situations, if I'm teaching them that, they're learning it from me. So
Right.
if I have a panic attack every time something doesn't go my way, what are they likely to do when something doesn't go their way?
They're going to have panic attacks because they're emulating
Or they're
what they
definitely
think they're being
say
taught
that they're having a
how
panic
to
attack.
respond. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they see that I can say, you know, wow, that was really rough for me. I was really uncomfortable. I was afraid. But I'm okay now. I did take some deep breaths, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
If they can see me handle situations like that, then I am modeling it for them.
Okay.
Right. So I do believe that a great deal of how we handle situations, how we handle things is learned behavior.
Right.
Okay. If I'm on the right track to learning, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you know that one of the most important part of your growth processes
Mm-hmm.
happens between the ages of 0 and 2, right?
Right.
So 0 and 2 is very, very crucial
And
for a person.
yes.
Okay. Now, between 0 and 2, all you hear is screaming and hooping and hollering and hooping and smelling weed and hearing mama and all the men's voices are different, in and
Right.
out and out and in,
Mm-hmm.
and you got all kinds of just
Just
chaos going
chaotic.
on.
Yeah.
And you cry, mama don't answer.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't learn, you haven't learned how to trust adults.
That's right.
Or you get a little older, now you cannot trust the adults.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes Uncle Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And Uncle Billy you know, gets friendly and pats
Right.
you on the head, and all of a
Right.
sudden, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he's doing things Uncle Billy ought not be doing.
And you're getting that
So
attention that you weren't receiving. Yeah.
you hear me, don't you, woman? You
I
hear
hear
me.
you.
So you're getting those things, and now it's not what you're supposed to be getting, right? So
Right.
now we have a different development within our brains.
Right.
Now our brains have changed the way it develops because of the trauma that we have experienced.
Right. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
So if your brain is growing, it's not, brains don't grow like this. Brains go from the rooter to the tutor. That's how
Yeah.
grow. It starts, all that stuff starts in the back. It comes up.
Yep. It comes up.
All right. So I say from the rooter to the tutor. So if your brain, I'm telling you, I ain't right.
Go ahead.
So
you all right?
if you are, you know, growing up and your development, your trusting and cognition and feelings
Right.
and right from wrong and all this kind of stuff, and
It's totally messed up.
it doesn't develop properly. I ain't telling you what's right and what's in the right place, because I ain't, you know, messing up all the time.
Right.
But if it doesn't develop properly,
Yeah.
here it is now, I'm 19.
And you have no clue.
You're expecting me to act 19.
Right.
But in reality, I'm acting 12.
Correct. Correct.
Or 6.
Yes.
Or wherever
even six.
most of that trauma takes place.
Yeah.
Because where that
Sometimes
trauma
people go
takes place,
past that point of
where that trauma
started.
takes
Yeah.
place, that's usually
Mhm.
where it kind of halts. Now let's not even throw drug use in the game.
Yeah.
Right?
That really
So
distorts the picture. Yeah.
listen, I have worked with adults who started using at 8, 9, 10,
Mhm.
you know, and they think, and we want them to just stop using. Well, how do you get somebody to stop doing something they've been doing since they were 8?
Yeah, and do you think that when they start at that age, they've learned how to pacify themselves or numb the pain or whatever it is that they went through that struggle?
Well, if they were using at that age, somebody was giving it to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not self-medicating, but of course, there are a lot of people who do self-medicate with marijuana, with alcohol. Now, this is what's crazy to me, and I will never understand this.
Okay.
People who are depressed drink alcohol. That is so crazy. Alcohol is a depressant.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm depressed. Let me drink depression. Let me drink a glass of depression. But it's what happens. It helps them to have what they call that liquid courage.
Yeah.
Liquid courage. Now you got your self-esteem, and now you can go and you can approach that young lady who looking all fine across the room, or you can holler at him
like a crutch in certain areas of your personality, right?
Yeah. So there's definitely some chemical stuff, some chemistry stuff, and there's nature stuff, and it's all in there. And I wish I could, I wish I had time to answer like all these questions, but I can just kind of.
Well, you actually really answered some of them just in that the conversation that you just had, because another one was what is happening when we think or feel, and you talked about that, but it also said that that experiences are merely random neurological fireworks and the soul talking to itself, and you did say that using physical organ of the brain like an internal telephone or something else. So that's what you said.
Yeah, because the telephone, if you don't answer, sometimes we looking at people, their phone is ringing, but they're not answering it.
Right. That's correct.
They are not answering.
Just like we choose whether or not we want to answer the physical phone, we choose whether or not we want to answer that mental phone that's telling us, don't do that or do that or move.
Now that may not be the case. That may not necessarily be the case. We may not be able to make that determination
all the time,
answer or not to answer, because of depending on the level of trauma that we've experienced, depending on how our brain, the neurological processes, that may be hindered. People who have experienced PT, like some sort of any type of big T trauma that leads to PTSD, I've worked with individuals who have been incarcerated, and that was a big T trauma.
Yeah.
And so they come out and now they have PTSD from being locked up. Right.
Yeah.
And with that, I can talk to certain individuals and I can be asking them a question and they'll be talking just fine. Like, pretty quick banter, call and response. I'll ask about something else that is on the, in their trauma bag, I'll say, that's in their trauma bag, and they'll go like this.
Just stop.
Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, because I'm silly, sometimes I'm like, you hear me talk? Hey, where'd you go?
Are you out?
Is your screen froze, like Zoom done froze up on you? And then some other times I might have to, say, well, I tell you what, never mind. Let's circle back. We'll come back to this one at another time.
Yeah.
So depending on the client, or depending on the person, you have this level of discernment that God gives to let you know whether or not, what needs to be done.
Okay.
So it may or may not be something that we can control. Now I believe it starts up here, but we're not always in control of that.
Of what that is. We'll respond to this question. It said that let me get it correctly. It said that the Bible predicts that what goes on in the heart is represented physically, that the brain change may be caused by these behaviors. Let me see. Let me read the complete sentence, both sentences. I'm trying to pick in it to make it
Okay.
make sense. But anyway, it said the Bible predicts that what goes on in the heart is represented physically, but the Bible would clarify that such differences do not prove that the brain caused the thoughts and action. Could it be the opposite? That the brain changes might be caused by behavior? Does that make sense to
Okay.
you?
Read it to me one more time.
Okay. The Bible predicts that what goes on in the heart is represented physically. But the Bible also clarifies that such differences do not prove that the brain caused the thoughts and action. It could be the opposite. And then it said, does the does brain changes could brain changes be caused by behavior? Does that make sense to you? I think they're trying to talk about how relating thinking and feeling,
Okay. All right. So
but
what
they're
I'm here,
adding
it's a
scripture in
lot.
there.
They got a lot in there, so I wrote it all
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
So let me address the does brain change is can brain changes be caused by behavior?
Okay.
Yes, absolutely yes. For example, drugs. Of course, drugs affect our brain. That's where your doctors and stuff say that substance abuse is a medical diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
Because a medical problem because of how it affects the brain.
Hmm.
Okay. So yes, brain changes can be caused by our behaviors. Now, are my brain is my brain going to be affected by, I don't know, me jumping off the steps?
Hmm.
You know, when I think about a kid who jumps from the sixth step all the way down
Yeah.
to the floor, I don't know. Maybe the brain will say what? Um, do it again, right? You can do it. You can do it. Go to step 7, right?
Yeah.
You Then they do step 7, and then they have that conversation. Do you think I can do step 8? Yeah, you can do step 8. Do step 8, right? That's all cognitive. That's all
Hmm.
cognition. All that happens up here.
So a
So
person that's
yes,
mentally that is going through anxiety or um, depression or things like that, could the brain really, they could be reacting in that same space, like saying, okay, in challenging themselves too far, should I say? Because like
yeah.
that 6th step and that 7th step, without getting help, just reaching and
Yeah,
reaching and reaching.
yeah. I laugh because I got both of them. And they like twin cousins, like Patty Duke,
Uh-huh.
identical cousins. And anxiety and depression can definitely get on your nerves.
Hmm.
Let's just be frank about that, okay?
Hmm.
Um Now, with anxiety and depression, they can definitely, mine is mostly situational,
Hmm.
okay? My depression is mainly situational. So when I experience depression, it's because of something that has happened or has not happened.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So my anxiety, on the other hand, is a constant thing.
Okay.
Okay. It is, my brain does not shut off.
Okay.
So if you can hear how I talk, right? You hear how I talk fast. I will go from here to here to here to here.
Yeah.
But I try to make sure that nobody gets lost on my journey, right?
Yes.
But that's how my brain is all day long,
Hmm.
right? And so it is definitely a challenge because I have to speak to myself and
Hmm.
tell myself that I can slow. I can slow down. I don't have to be in a hurry. I
Right.
don't have to prove anything. I don't have to solve everything. I have to give myself permission to
Right.
not be all things for all people.
I had
That's
to learn
that's
that.
where my anxiety comes from,
Yeah,
right?
I
Because I
suffer
need,
in that same area. I really identify with what you said because I had
yeah,
to make a readjustment to myself
yeah,
because um, I I used to compensate by researching everything, knowing about everything, so that no matter what conversation I was in or who I was talking to, I knew I could hold myself in that conversation because I researched everything. I studied the encyclopedia as a kid. You know, that was my reading, was the encyclopedia and the dictionary, so that I would
yeah.
be able to converse. But actually, behind closed doors, I'd be a nervous wreck.
Oh wow,
But when I stepped out, I knew
wow,
I could command because I could talk in any conversation. And so I had,
wow.
as coming up, I had to really kind of check myself, but I did not check myself. I still became what micromanaging everything and had to be that for everybody all the way through my life,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now I, like you say, you give yourself permission
yeah.
to not to be all things to everybody,
Mm-mm.
and you don't have to do everything right now.
I ain't gotta do everything for anybody. But
Yeah.
that's those are things that I struggle with. And then when it comes time for my brain to turn off so I can go
Mhm.
sleep, it won't turn off.
It won't turn off. Yeah.
Mm-mm. I gotta turn it off.
Yeah.
So now I got a doctor to help me turn it off. Right. So otherwise I won't sleep. I'll
You
be
won't.
too busy trying to think about, well, what's this podcast gonna be like? Where am
Uh-huh.
I going? What am I gonna wear? How am I gonna look? And how am I gonna do this?
Yeah.
Am I gonna sit this way? Am I gonna sit that way? Am I gonna wear a collar? Am I gonna do this? And I'm like, girl, go put a shirt on,
Go to put, yeah.
right?
I've given myself permission to step back and not think about it because it would be on all day. I would be critiquing and
Yeah,
changing and doing things, but I have learned to give myself permission to turn off and
yeah,
focus on something else,
yeah, yeah.
Whereas once upon a time, I focused on everything
Come on now.
at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And we can't do that.
you
We
can't do
really
that.
can't.
No, you can't do that. But
Now then, they said something about, does the brain not not something about the brain causing an action. I was kind of lost with that one. I'm not sure exactly what
yeah,
they were asking there.
I'm not
Uh,
sure. It's brain change may be caused by the behaviors. Well, the behaviors you
yeah,
talked
I
about
answered
that.
that. I've
You
answered
did
that.
that.
Okay.
So okay.
All right. And then there was, what's in the heart is manifested physically.
Oh, is represented physically. Yeah.
All right. So we can see that in our just daily life, right? So when when have you ever met that person who just ornery? They ornery.
Mhm.
They mean, and surly.
Mhm.
They always looking like yes.
Yeah.
And
Look like they're waiting to attack.
the one that be in the church meeting
Uh-huh.
and
Waiting
always
to
got something to
attack.
say,
Yeah. Waiting.
waiting in the corners, the laughing hyenas on the Lion King.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The
Yes.
hyenas.
Yes. That's
When
a
you
good one.
have when you have people who have callous a calloused heart,
Mhm.
who doesn't know how to love, who
Mhm.
doesn't know how to experience joy, who doesn't know how to experience the fruit of the spirit, who doesn't
Mhm.
know how it feels to be loved.
Right.
When you have someone who doesn't know how it feels, what is that? That is worthlessness. hopelessness,
Mm-hmm.
shame that we talked about
Yeah.
last night in Bible study. It's those things that they end up feeling. And when they feel that way, yes, it affects how we talk,
Uh-huh.
where we go with, do we go to the liquor store, or do we sleep with a bunch of
Yeah.
people? Hello,
Mm-hmm.
somebody,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Or do we go looking for help? Like, where
Yeah.
do our feet take us? Our heart has a lot to do with where our
With that.
feet take us. Our
Yeah.
heart, our feelings have a lot to do with what we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? What we do with our hands. Do we
Right.
give? I'm not talking about financial giving, but
I know
okay,
what you
if you
mean.
want to talk about
Yeah.
that, let's talk about that. But we give a peanut
Mhm.
butter and jelly sandwich. We give
Right.
a pair of socks. We give $1 to somebody who need to get on the bus.
Yeah.
We will do those types of things
Mm-hmm.
because of what's in our heart. Now, if our
Right.
heart says, "Don't give that cow nothing,"
Then it won't. Then
then
that's the way we
that
respond.
cow ain't gonna get
Did
nothing.
nothing. Yeah.
And they gonna tell everybody that cow ain't getting nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yes, what's in the heart does affect what we
Okay.
do. It manifests itself on the outside, for sure.
Okay. Okay. I am really enjoying this. We could just talk forever,
I
on this
can't.
subject. But we have
But
10
I'm
more
gonna tell you
minutes.
this: you have
We
you.
have
I don't
10
know.
minutes.
I don't know if
And
you're
in this
watching.
10 minutes, I would like for you to close out it with talking about how can we as a church strengthen the body of Christ in our uh dealing with the sufferers and those that need help like everybody else. How can we help? What can we do? Or also versus what are we doing that we should not be doing?
Oh,
How
okay.
about that?
All right. Let me let me do this. All right. So we have a cycle, one of them bicycle shops that you go work out and you ride your
Mm-hmm.
bike or whatever. And it's like walking distance from the church. As a matter of fact, they use our church parking lot as, space to park their cars. And I got dry erase marker all over my hands. Anyway, um, they gave me a free membership for the year to go to the gym. I probably went to that gym like 5 times. Well, I called because I had a question. I needed to talk to the owner. And I did what most people do when they ain't been to church in a long time. They will walk up to the pastor at the funeral. You know how y'all do. You know how y'all do at the funeral. You walk up to the pastor and tell the pastor, it's my membership is over here. I'm a member here.
Uh-huh. Right.
And what happened was I called Noelle, was the owner of the gym. Talked to her and I said, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I just don't know, I'm coming back. I'm coming. She said to me something that is what we need to do in the church.
Mm-hmm.
She said, we don't ask where you been.
All right.
We don't ask why you haven't been here.
Okay.
We celebrate you when you get here. And I thought, well, DAMN. This is the first thing that we will do if we have not seen someone
Mm-hmm.
in the pew
Mm-hmm.
is open up our mouths and say, where you been? Well,
Yeah.
about time you came back. Really?
And sometimes they won't turn around and leave and you won't see them no more.
The reason, maybe,
Yeah.
like, let me just throw this. Maybe the reason that I haven't been here is because I've been feeling some shame.
Mm-hmm.
My life has not been what it could have been. I lost my job. I lost my man. I lost my whatever. And I just don't have the strength to face people right now. All right. Now here comes the church. Well, the church is where you ought to be. Well, why do I want to be there if I'm being judged when I come in there?
Yeah.
Or if I'm being greeted, if that's my greeting. I don't need to be chastised or made to feel small because I haven't been present.
Right.
What I need is, girl, I am so glad to see you.
Yes.
It is good to have you here today. That's what I need, right?
Yeah.
That's what we need. That's one of the reasons why people do not return to church. You know the lady who I don't use names, but you know the lady who was a member of your church. She was an active member of your church, and she stopped coming to your church. She went to another church and started going to that church.
Yeah.
But realized because she stopped going to that church too.
Yeah.
She really wants to come back to the church where she left. She wants to come back, but she can't.
Yeah. She
can't. You know why she can't? Because of y'all. She don't want to come back because she don't want to hear y'all
don't
at
want
the
to hear all
well,
that. Yeah.
running off at the mouth about where she been, why she ain't been here. Now, I like to play around with the Samaritan woman at the well. I want to know why that woman went to that well by herself. We all want to say it was because she was messing around with everybody else's man. Well, is that really the case?
Yeah.
Or is it that her man was messing with everybody else and that's why they wasn't her husband no more? But why is it that we shame her? For going to the well by herself. We shame her.
Yeah.
And why is that? Instead of saying, why she go to the well by herself? Why is that your freaking question?
Yeah, off the bat, but yeah. Right.
Why she go by herself? Because she didn't want to listen to y'all. Your hens.
Yeah.
Chirp cackling. She didn't want to hear y'all clucking. Right? And I'm not talking about females as hens. I'm talking about there's some roosters that be clucking.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much that happens that deter people from being for finding purpose or finding community. Hello, there it is.
Right.
Finding community, within the church body. So how can the church strengthen the body of Christ? Quit kicking it in the shin every time it comes home.
But don't you need that there has to be a point to where it has to be an open conversation, because this conversation is not had in say fellowship meetings or groupings
that's okay. And there's the other part, right? So who's going to have this conversation? This is where Pastor, your title, where the rubber meets the road. Be real, stop lying.
Yeah.
It ain't easy.
It ain't gonna be easy. It's not gonna be easy talking. It's not gonna be easy talking to these members that've been there for 40 years and like doing the thing the way they do.
Who wants to tackle that?
Yeah.
I'm 46. I'll tackle it.
Yeah.
There's some 56 pastors who've been pastoring for a long time who will not engage in conflict with members.
Right.
Well, conflict ain't always bad.
It's not yet. Right.
And I tell people,
but they say sometimes you need to stir the pot in order to get all the ingredients and the seasonings together.
Listen. People think that oil and water can't mix, right? We say that. We know that the properties of oil and water do not mix. You put oil and water in the same container, the water is still water. The oil is still oil, even though they are in the same container. Now, there is Hidden Valley, there's Kroger brand, there's all these brands of oil and water in the same bottle. Seasonings and stuff in it. It's called Italian dressing.
Yeah, right.
Come on, somebody.
Somebody
Now,
had to just be brave enough.
somebody had to be brave enough to see what it was going to be like to let them hang out together for a little bit. You ain't got to be, you don't have to take on the properties of everybody in the congregation.
Right.
You can still be yourself, and you can still acknowledge who you are in Christ.
Right.
But if you don't know who you are in Christ, I'm oil.
Yeah.
I am oil. I am oil. I am oil.
I am too.
But who wants a bunch of oil?
Yeah.
Right down here shining and carrying on. Nobody wants a bunch of oil. You got to add some. You got to add something else to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Add a little water. What do you think? What y'all think I do with my braids? Keep my braids from looking all crispy. A little oil and a little water. Mix it together and hit them honey. Hit that up together. Make it shine a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Shine a little bit. Yeah, that's how you do that. And so the church, though, the pastor, leaders in the congregation have got to understand that it is okay to have that conflict, to have those opposing ideas, to have those opposing personalities. Everybody ain't gonna get along in there.
Right.
But everybody can live in the same space. And imagine what that's like if your congregation got different peoples, different personalities, different nationalities, different all these alities. You got different genderalities, different sexualities, different all kinds of alities. You got them all up in your church.
All up in
and
there.
Look at how God can move in
And
that.
I was thinking, I was just teaching yesterday on the Bible study. Also, was that, and that's why I'm glad you brought that up, because I was teaching that all of us together, because of our different experiences up with God, and through our conflicts and our situations and our illnesses, how we've experienced God, when we come together in fellowship, we have more of a picture of the fullness of God when we come together.
It's nice. It's nice. It's really nice to be around people who look like me. It's really nice. I went from Lexington, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a predominantly Black town.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just be for real about it.
Yeah,
we got a little Black pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I left Lexington, Kentucky, and went to Clark Atlanta University.
Yeah.
I'm talking culture shock, honey.
I bet you was.
Now, most Black people
Mm-hmm.
who leave Lexington and go to Atlanta didn't come back home.
Yeah.
Because they loved it. They thought that it was great. It was excellent to have all them people that looked like them, right? I said, Mama, I need to come home. I need to be around some people.
See, and with me, it was the opposite. I grew up in Texas. So I grew up, my maturity was in diversity. So when I came to Louisville was a culture shock to me, because I hadn't been around that many Black people all the time, just Black people, so I had a like, I guess you say, a reverse culture shock.
Yeah.
And
I had to come up out of Atlanta. I said, Atlanta ain't for me. There's too many Black people around.
Yeah.
I need some water.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
And so that's I joke about that, but it's for real. Like that's one of the reasons I didn't stay. The other reason is because I was too far away from my mama. Let's be for real about it. And I was calling my mama for money all the time, and it was a whole lot cheaper to come home.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that. Mine is that my family came here too. And so if I go back, I'll be leaving my family, so it forces me to stay and to, I'm always though have wanting to go home, because of the diversity. It was so diverse, all the time, just everywhere you went, it was diverse. And and sometimes I still, be like, wow, it is what it is. But I think diversity in the church, like I was saying, that because of the different experiences that we have based on our diversity, we can see more of a fullness of Christ within our church.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look here. I must
Yeah.
say I am so grateful
I am happy.
for this opportunity to hang out
We
with you
must do
tonight.
this again. We must
Yes,
do
please
this
let me.
again.
Please let me come back. Please,
Yes,
please.
the Lord has given me a year's worth of topics for um Be Real,
To
Stop
rant about.
Lying, It Ain't Easy. So,
Rant about. Okay. All
so
right.
I'll be glad to get back in touch with you and see what you feel about these other topics after February. And
Okay.
I just want to thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
No
Like I
problem.
say, it will be on Spreaker, and I Google iHeart soon as we finish, and I put the link through. It will be on those podcast platforms.
Okay.
It's on YouTube, and I'm going to just spread all over because this has been such a good session, and
Well,
I feel
thank
like
you.
everyone
Thank
needs
you.
to be introduced to you.
Well,
And I love your uniqueness. Always have.
thank
You've
you.
all, as far as ever since I first known you, you have always been a real person.
Well,
and
yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
and
And
yeah,
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God for that. That I don't feel like I have to be somebody else.
no,
Um,
yeah,
and I can walk in my call authentically. I want to
right.
say this
Mhm,
as you about to close us out.
mhm.
The ladies that you have in this series,
Yes,
my homegirl Angie
yes.
and my
He's on
homegirl LaShawn,
tomorrow. Yes.
those are my classmates from seminary. We went to
Oh,
seminary together.
okay. All right.
Um,
See there.
and
See, God
so,
knows what He's doing.
yes, yes. And so those are, I don't know the other young lady though.
Okay.
But I'm sure they are phenomenal. I mean, I know those two are phenomenal. So, for any of you, whoever your guests are,
Yes.
that are
Well,
tuning in, y'all come on and hang
come.
out,
Yes,
and
just hang out and
hear
just.
what these homegirls got to say.
That's right.
These are some. There's a book called The Badass Women of the Bible.
Uh-huh. Hey,
These
we
some
have some
badass
here,
women.
right? We have
Yeah,
some here right here
yes.
in
Here I go. There I
Kentucky.
go, cussing. There I go,
Yes,
cussing.
and beyond. Well, on tomorrow at 7 p.m., Reverend Andrew French Coles will be on, and she's going to help us make sense of our roles in personal sin and supernatural expression that plays in mental health and emotional health. Okay, she's going to kind of dib and dab on that for us on tomorrow. So you
Oh,
tune in.
I thought I thought it was a different Angie, but I know Angela French Coles too.
Yeah, Angela French Coles will be on
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yes, and then there's Reverend Dr. LaShonda
Reverend
Fletcher will
Doctor.
be on February 3rd. And I'm proud to say that my cousin, the Reverend
Okay.
Dr. Sharon Ellis Davis, will be on the 4th. And
Okay.
both of those young
That's
ladies
who I
have
know.
books concerning the Black church and mental health and trauma of sexual and domestic violence. So
Ooh.
we're going to look forward to it as we have looked forward to this podcast. I am so excited, and I will be in touch with you later. I will
All
for
right.
our next podcast. And so all of you that are watching, thank you for watching us. And I'm sure tell your friends that they can, if they was not live, it's going to be on YouTube and it will be on all the podcasts. So you can still listen to it 3 or 4 or 5 times or share it with others. Because be real, stop lying. This world and
It
life
ain't
we
easy.
live, it ain't easy. I'm
It
Reverend
ain't easy.
Ellis, and you are,
Reverend Delmetria Cayson-Combs.
and we will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.